Hey guys, welcome back to another video on using the sequelize ORM to build a Node.js project. My name is Kyle. In the last video, we checked to see if arguments were actually passed to this create new user function that were correct, and then we checked to see if its permission ID was a valid permission ID. The next and final thing we want to do to create a user is to hook this entire function up to our user service, or not our user service. Well, yeah, actually our user service, and then to our user service gateway. So the functionality that we laid out, if I can find it here, is that we can't actually just hook this all up to the API gateway. We need to pass through this user function first, or user service first. And so far, we've been heavily playing in this user DB file. We really haven't touched a whole lot in this user service file. So right here, we're going to bring in some more functions from this user DB. And just so this doesn't get too crowded, I'm actually going to start doing this. Okay, so now we want to bring in create user. And right below here, we're going to write async function and create new user. Okay, and here I don't know what we're going to pass into it yet, but this is kind of where people start wondering, well, why the heck am I not just calling create user? Because we can actually really see that this function I'm writing here is almost certainly just going to pass whatever is passed into it straight into this create user function. And that is the case this time. But remember that that's not always the case. And here we actually did do some manipulation of things before we passed it to the user DB handler. And this is just the case that we're not going to do that. We're actually just going to pass it straight to the user DB handler. So here we're going to say return await and then create user. And we need to pass in an object here. So we're going to say that this was probably passed an object in and of itself that was called args, and then we're just going to pass in args to this guy as well. So yes, we are kind of just leapfrogging right into this create user function. I'm okay with that. So now up in the user gateway, we're going to write await, return await user dot, and we didn't actually export it, so let's go into our user service and export our create new user. Okay, and then back in our gateway, we'll type in user dot create new user, and we're going to pass it an object, and that object is just going to be all of these things. So first name, last name, username, password, and email. So first name, last name, username, password, email, and finally we need to pass in a permission ID. Okay, now that permission ID doesn't exist, right? We're not passing anything in here. So let's actually add that to our constraints. I'm going to require this permission ID. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm not going to require the permission ID because we do have a default in place, but I am going to say const permission ID is equal to rec.body.permission ID. Now, if they don't pass in a permission ID, so let's add this up here. Permission ID, it's going to be optional, and it's an integer. Okay, so if they don't pass in a permission ID, because we're going to be optional here, then it'll just set their permission ID to 2. But if they do pass in a permission ID, then it will actually be validated. Okay, so if this isn't there, it'll just be set to undefined. And when it does crawl through the user service and then finally into user DB to create a new user, undefined is the same thing as false. So it will set their permission ID to 2. Okay, so we're good. We have a new route to create a user. I know that probably seemed like we did a lot of stuff there. But anytime you're posting data, there's going to be a lot of just validating that whatever's being sent is correct. And you always want to make sure that whatever you're sending back makes sense to the user, that they can be like, oh, okay, username is already taken. That's pretty explanatory. Like, you should be able to get from that, I need to choose another username. Email is already taken. I need to choose another email. Permission ID isn't valid. Okay, so that's not a permission ID that I can send. The only thing that we're going to probably be changing a little bit as we build forward. We're not going to change it now because I want to move on to the passport section of user authentication. But the only thing we'll probably change moving forward is this post route to create a new user is almost certainly going to be a route that is available to the public. So I'm probably going to create a sign up page that says let this person create a new user. The only glaring security issue with that is we don't want a route that's publicly available to be able to create an admin. So later on in the future, I will almost certainly add something that says if this person is not an admin, do not let them create a new user other than a student. So you can only create a student. You can't create a new admin, but we're not going to add that right now. All right, so we have the route to create a new user. Let's test that it exists, or test that it works. And to do that, we're going to use Postman. So let's open up git bash, run npm run debug, so that we actually run our server. And that's going to start up our server. I already have DevTools open right here. So once that actually runs, we will see that happen. And Postman is being a bit laggy for me, so I'm going to pause the video and I will unpause it when everything is actually running. God, I need a new computer. All right, so now that we have Postman up and running, let's test out our create user route. So we'll go to post, because this is definitely going to be a post route. And then let's look at what route this actually is. So if we check all the way back in app.js, we see that we're going to do /user. So /user, localhost 3000 /user. And then it should just be a /. So in the user API gateway, we have a post route, and all that is a /. All right, so let's see here. Now, this should give us a bunch of errors if we try to post it without anything. So error, first name, last name, username, password, and email are required. So we will go to our body. Let's do raw, and we're going to say JSON. Okay, and then we're going to say my first name is Kyle. Last name is Tranel. Username is admin. And password is admin. Obviously, these will not be the same things that I use on the production side, but for testing, it's fine. And email will say test@test.com. Okay, there's an error in my JSON. Bad string. First, I always forget that in actual raw JSON, you have to put everything in the string. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and send this through. All right, username is too short, password is too short. So, yep, that makes sense. Admin username, admin password. And now we'll send that through. All right. Let's see what happened here. It inserted, so looks like we created a new user, but it's possible that we didn't return anything. So let's do this. We'll run this. All right, so Kyle Tranel, admin username, test. My permission ID is 2 because I'm a student. Really should have sent an admin through there. So let's actually change this to 1. I completely forgot that I wanted this to be an admin. So we'll change that to 1 real quick. But let's see here, because it looks like we're not actually sending anything back. So we are return await user.create new user. This is going to in turn return create user. And let's see what create user is returning. So this is returning our new user. Oh, but I'm not sending anything back. So there's a difference between return and send. Okay, so we don't want to return. Instead, let's say const new user equals await, and then let's return res.send or res.status 200.json, and we'll say user is equal to new user. Okay, so now we're good to go. Real quick, let's delete me from here, because otherwise it's going to complain that I already exist. Okay, and then in Postman, we'll send it through again. Oh, restarted. So let's wait for that to restart. Should be good now. Send it through again. Okay, restart anytime. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so it has restarted. We'll send it through again. All right, so here we go. We got back our new user, my ID, my first name, last name, my username. I have a permission ID of 2. I can't believe I literally did that again. And I have a permission ID. Okay, so let's look at my model for permissions. I may need to create this table again. So looking at our model, we have underscore, underscored. Underscore or underscored? Yeah, underscored equals true. Permission. Paranoid equals true, underscore equals true. Here we have permission. Looking at my permission table. I have a created at, I have an ID, either looking at my users table. Do I have a permission ID? ID, first name, last name, username, password, email, permission ID. Huh. So where is this dude coming from? I'm not sure. I'll have to look into where he's coming from. This might be something that sequelize is, well, obviously sequelize is adding it on its own. Let's look at my index file and associations. So has many db dot. So a user belongs to db dot permission. But both of these have the underscore value. Oh dear. So db.permission, both have underscored equals true. Okay. Either way, we now have a user. If I tried to pass this through again, oh, look at that. Admin username is already taken. If I switch this up a little bit, we're going to see error. Oh dear. That should not have happened. See, this is why we test things. Email test@test.com. Let's make sure that I have this email, test@test.com. Let's look at the code. Okay. Let's do users. That's a nope, user service. So we're going to validate here. This should be or. Okay. If taken, valid username or valid email. So let's copy. We'll delete this second guy. Sorry, we'll delete you. All right, open up. So we have a different username, same that. Replay this. Wait for that to sync. Okay, send it through, and now I should get an error. What is going on here? Username. Username is too long. Okay, so what's going on with this email? Let's test that out. Canary. So let's open up our Chrome DevTools and see why it's able to get through that email. So if an email, okay, change up my username a little bit here and send it. All right, so we have an email test@test.com. So we're going to say, so taken, valid, email, and then we're going to await email exists and pass in test it. So let's see what this is going to do. Okay, so if email is equal to null or email is equal to undefined, and let's see here, we're going to find a user where email is equal to this. So let's see what it does. Okay, email is equal to test@test.com. And let's see if it returns me. So user should be okay. If user, return this user. Back up in the user service, then we should now see that taken valid email is equal to a user. So is this? Nope, that's null. But is this true? Yes. So now we should return this guy, which is null. So that's a little, we'll have to refactor that. So cdc123b43, my guess is it's not actually creating these new users. Aha, it's not. It's just passing back. Okay, so let's make that a little bit more clear. This really gives me the impression that I'm creating a user, when in fact, I'm not creating a user, I'm just passing back the user that I created. So we don't want to do that. Wait, no, I'm not, because I'd throw an error that would say username is already taken, or email is already taken. So let's change this again and see. Ah, because of this line here. Okay, so maybe you figured this out, but because if this isn't found, this is going to return null, right? So this is only going to, if this is true, if we find a user with a valid email, but this is null, then that means that this is going to return null, and that's the same, that's basically as if this user wasn't found. So we never want this to be null, or at least the return to be null. So let's do this. We're going to remove this. So if taken valid username, return valid username. If taken valid email, return taken valid email. Okay, so now we should be good to go, because if either of these is an object, it will return that object. That's what I get for trying to condense something into a small line of code. All right, so let that save, refresh, and I'm going to run through this all again. So let's play that. Let's delete all of these users that I just created for me. And then up here, let's remember to add that darn permission ID. So permission underscore ID is going to be equal to 1. And don't forget my comma. All right, and then let's change this back to admin user and admin pass and send. Okay, so email is, we're good. We should be good here. Let's get rid of all of these breakpoints that I put in. Okay, return user. All right, so we get this valid username back. If I try sending it again, we're going to say that this username is already taken. If I change this to admin user 1, we should now get an error back that said email is already taken. But if I change this to test1@test.com, we should be good to go again. Awesome. I should now see 2 new users in the database, both with the permission ID of 1. I'm going to delete this admin user admin pass because they are a little bit icky. And let's create a test student as well that we'll use later on. So we'll say test, let's say John Smith. John Smith is going to be our first user. So we'll say test student and test student and test at student.com. Permission ID of 2. Send that through. We get our user back. we look in our user table, we now have a admin and a student. All right, now that we have finally finished with user creation, we can now move forward to user authentication with Passport. I will see you in the next video.
You said that you needed me like a car.